Now before we get into the video, I do want to say a massive thank you to today's video sponsors, and once again that is JerseyFIFA.com. They really do help keep the content on this channel going, and they even sent me a free shirt which you can see on screen here. And as you can see, I got the new Manchester United home kit, and genuinely the kit really is top quality. I highly recommend their product. So make sure to get in a link in the description down below, and now if you use code JerseyFIFA at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. You get a great football shirt, and you help support the channel, which I really do appreciate massively. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are talking about Manchester United's narrow 1-0 win over West Ham. And yeah, let's just get into it. I want to talk about some of the things that we saw during the game, some of the positives for Manchester United, some of the negatives, and some of the reasons that West Ham didn't trouble United as much as what they should have. Because this wasn't a great United performance. We've seen much better than this from Manchester United in recent times. But regardless of that, the approach was still the same idea of trying to control the ball and play out from the back. And we know that to do this, United like to use a bit of a 2-3 shape. Eriksen pushes further forward in line with Bruno Fernandes. And then we see Dalot and Shaw either side of Casemiro. And from West Ham's point of view, they quite clearly labelled Casemiro as the most important player to try and stop. West Ham felt that if they could stop Casemiro, they could largely stop the rest of the team, and at times it did kind of work, and it worked with Gianluca Scamacca and Flynn Downs working together to stop him from getting the ball. And the way it would work was quite simple. If the ball would go to Harry Maguire, Scamacca would come across and Flynn Downs would sit on Casemiro. If United then cycled it backwards to Lisandro Martinez, Downs would go press and Scamacca would now sit on Casemiro. And the aim was just to stop Casemiro getting on the ball because they know how good his quality is. I was speaking about it in a video the other day. Casemiro is much better on the ball than what I think we all thought. West Ham were very aware of that, so tried to cut that out. And then, of course, out wide, they were kind of man for man with the wingers on the midfielders, on the fullbacks, sorry. And then Souček and Declan Rice on Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen, 1v1. And we know how good Souček and Rice are in these defensive duels, and it did make it quite difficult for Manchester United to progress the ball. But what we kind of saw in certain spells was Casemiro just drop deeper into the back three, in between the two centre-backs, allowing United's base to be a little bit wider, but also now it's got the extra man in it. So now it is much more difficult for the front to press that system. And it did mean that at times, if West Ham had squeezed nice and high up the pitch, which they did to be fair to them for large periods of the game, it meant that Casemiro could drop in here, get the ball, Downs and Scamacca were now unsure who was meant to be pressing him, and it allowed Casemiro to play forward from there, look to get the likes of Elanga into the game, and also a couple of long passes over the top for Marcus Rashford as well. And we also saw Christian Eriksen doing something similar, taking advantage of this change in structure, dropping deep, getting the ball, and then looking to ping passes over the top. Because like I said, West Ham held quite a high line, and in Marcus Rashford and Elanga, you've got a decent amount of pace that can really get in behind the defence and hurt them. Unfortunately for United, none of the passes really came off, and West Ham dealt with them pretty well. Despite this, Manchester United were still the team that were on top, and they were the team that looked to try and control the ball, try and dictate the game, but actually, I don't think Ten Hag will be very pleased with what he saw on the ball from this point onwards, very much at all. I'll come on to it at the end that United ended up relying on David De Gea in the defence a little bit. And it's because on the ball, they weren't good enough. Ten Hag will really not be happy with this performance. Yes, the 1-0 win was important, but on the ball, just weren't very good. And it weren't a case of the structure being an issue or anything like that. United weren't necessarily set up wrong. West Ham and David Moyes didn't produce a tactical defensive masterclass. United were just careless, really careless on the ball. Even Lisandro Martinez and Harry Maguire at times, who are actually both usually really good with their passing, had a couple of just sloppy passes into these areas, the same for Dalot as well. The one player I probably wouldn't kind of label with having this sloppy game was Luke Shaw. I thought Luke Shaw on the ball was absolutely incredible, and just his first touch, his control, his ability to take the ball under pressure, his ability to play passes through the lines, get passes moving forward, get the ball in someone like Marcus Rashford. Shaw was absolutely brilliant, but apart from that, United really lacked control. Before we continue with the video, I want to talk to you guys about today's video sponsor, anythingfootball.net. You'll be able to find the link to anythingfootball.net in the description down below, and as you scroll through the website, you will see how many great football boots they have from a load of different top brands. And honestly, some of these football boots are absolutely stunning. They're genuinely works of art. And I'll put some examples on screen here. You can see just how nice some of these boots are. They really are stunning. But if you want to check them out for yourself, then use the link in the description down below and head to anythingfootball.net. Now back to the video. We saw Ronaldo occasionally dropping into these areas to try and create overloads, which in a sense did work at times. But then United had no one further forward, to really work the ball to. We saw Rashford coming inside and Luke Shaw pushing forward. But again,
when they did get into these situations, when they did work something quite well, there was just no one in the box because Ronaldo was too interested in dropping deeper to link the play. Really weren't very good from Manchester United at all. Normally when I talk about United winning, especially this season, we've been talking about some good moments and, good patterns of play, good control from the likes of Eriksen and Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes creating chances, Rashford causing havoc. It just really didn't happen at all. Elanga on the right wing was kind of non-existent. He didn't really have too much of an impact on the game. I think we know he's not as good as Antony. He was kind of forced to do a job that he doesn't really want to do here. He's much better on the left wing, almost where Rashford is playing actually. Elanga doesn't really want to play this sort of role, and you can kind of tell during the game. And what it meant, I think United knew that, because it meant that United were hitting these long switch passes on a far less regular basis. And of course, when that happens against a team that is more than happy to get players behind the ball, especially with someone like Downs in midfield as well helping out, it just makes it really difficult for Manchester United to really create any overloads or any workings when you're not switching the ball from side to side. I always say that in these games, you have to switch the ball from the left to the right, to the left to the right, keep the opposition moving from side to side. United just didn't do that at all. It was a reluctance to kind of get the ball out to Elanga, get him to get at Cresswell, which we don't see when Antony plays. And honestly, it was actually really poor from Manchester United. There was just kind of one moment of quality, a throw in down this side, and Eriksen gets the ball in this right pocket of half space, whips the cross in, and Marcus Rashford, what a brilliant header. We were talking, 3 weeks ago? I believe it was against Newcastle when he missed that header last second about it being a horrible miss, saying he can't header. He's now scored 2 very, very nice headers in the space of a week and got his 100th Manchester United goal. So maybe all of those people criticising him last season, just maybe they were wrong. Maybe. Who knows? But in general, United actually just weren't very good. I'd love to, I know you're all United fans, I'd love to sit here and say, oh, Manchester United done this well, they done this well. They just didn't, and like I said, I wouldn't say it was a tactical issue. I think United were just really rushed for some reason. United needed a player to kind of get the foot on the ball and slow it down a bit. When they tried to do that, the quality of pass then wasn't there. I think what we also saw with this cross from Eriksen for Rashford is what I keep saying every game. United need to get a player in this right half space. If you are right-footed, it is so much easier to cross from this area here and get this shape on the ball than it is to do it over from this side. From this side, a right-footed cross is such a difficult technique. If you talk about one of the best crossers in world football, Kevin De Bruyne, there's a reason he gets in this area. It's the best area to do it. And we saw it for the goal. Eriksen playing where it just looked easier for him to create the chance. And the ball was brilliant. Rashford finished brilliantly. But yeah, United weren't very good on the ball, and as a result, it did leave them with a decent amount of defensive work that they needed to do. So the question now is, how did Manchester United go about doing that defensive work? And they went about it with mixed results. There were times when they were defending really well as a team, as a collective, but then there were other moments which I don't think were so good. And unfortunately, as much as I love him, some of that comes down to Harry Maguire. Now we can put it down to sharpness and things, but stylistically, as a footballer, he just isn't as quick on his feet as the likes of Varane and Lindelof. And it meant that West Ham were able to get the ball in areas like this, or particularly with Downs actually here. And Maguire gets caught in no man's land far too often. And it happened a few times in this game where he either presses when he shouldn't and he should sit off, or another time he'll sit off when he should be pressing the ball. And this dynamic of Lisandro Martinez and Harry Maguire, I just don't really like it. When you play an aggressive centre-back like Lisandro Martinez, you need a centre-back alongside him who can be a good covering defender. Harry Maguire is never going to be that. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but in terms of playing alongside Lisandro Martinez, it just doesn't work. It's not a dynamic that works, and it did cause problems for United. De Gea, on that front, does deserve credit, because there were times where Maguire would get caught out, the pass would be played in this area, and De Gea was actually quite alert and coming off his line again, which is really nice to see. Love that we are starting to see that. But I think another day, West Ham would have punished Manchester United more. Had they had someone like Lucas Paqueta fit, or had they started Fornals from the start, I think they cause more problems. This is not Flynn Downs' position. He is much better in deeper areas where he can try and dictate the game and progress the ball. Playing as an attacking midfielder requires a very different skill set. There's much more expectancy on creativity, but also quick 1-2s, knitting the play together. This role just didn't really suit him, and I do think that Manchester United could have been punished if a more natural, attacking, creative midfielder had been in this position. But they weren't, and as a result, United kind of got away with it. Despite that, West Ham did still have chances, and particularly late on in the game, we saw Fornals come on. Let's just quickly change that. We saw Fornals come onto the pitch, And I thought that West Ham instantly looked better. They instantly looked more creative, and it's just because they actually now had a creative midfielder on the pitch. And they were able to get the ball into some really good areas towards his back stick. But I have to say, the Manchester United back four, but particularly Lisandro Martinez, Harry Maguire and Diogo Dalot, defended brilliantly. Really, really well. There were some very difficult crosses that were coming into the back post, and Diogo Dalot in particular, the way that he defended his back post was absolutely brilliant. And that's something we haven't seen at Manchester United in recent years. Luke Shaw isn't great at doing it on the left-hand side, but particularly on the right-hand side, it's been Wan-Bissaka the last few seasons, and it's probably his biggest weakness of his game is defending his back post. Dalot done an absolutely brilliant job, and honestly, I think the whole back four did. And for me, they're the ones that deserve credit from this game. De Gea and his defenders. Yes, Rashford done well, he got his 100th goal, and was Manchester United's most threatening player going forward, I would say. But it was the defence that impressed for me, and Manchester United are just looking very good defensively, aren't they? It's the effect of Ten Hag, it's the effect of players like Dalot and Luke Shaw being in form, but it's also the effect of having Lisandro Martinez, a player who I will be doing a video on probably tomorrow, because we need to talk about him, because he's just been so good. But yeah, in terms of this video, this match, there's not too much to talk about in terms of going in depth, because Manchester United weren't actually very good. In terms of like how Manchester United beat West Ham, they produced one good moment of quality. It was a moment of individual brilliance, I will happily admit that. It was just one moment of quality from Christian Eriksen with the ball and a great header from Marcus Rashford. But it was enough to get them the win. And the 3 points, very, very important as we head towards the World Cup. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave the video. On that note, a very important 3 points for Manchester United. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. What did you think of the performance? Who were the good players? Who disappointed you a little bit? And what changes would you like to see in midweek and also for Aston Villa next weekend? Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.